إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, we had recited from ayat 27 to 42 of Surah Saad, and we had terminated on the on the ayah 33 in our commentary. So now we're going to be moving forward with the commentary on ayah 34, right? So the Imam Ibn Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he starts by saying, quote, "And when the Exalted One had said, وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّا سُلَيْمَانَ, and we had indeed tested Sulaiman." Now the test that he had undergone is the test of his kingdom coming to an end. وَأَلْقَيْنَا عَلَى كُرْسِيِّهِ, and we had placed on his throne jasadan, a jasad or a form. Now the form being referred to, there are two understandings regarding the form that took over after the kingdom of Sulaiman came to an end. The first is that the form, the jasadan, being referred to, the body, was a demon that took over control over the children of Israel at that time. This was stated by Ibn Abbas and is the understanding of the vast majority. With regard to the name of the particular demon in question that took control after his death, there are some three statements on this matter. One is that the name of the demon was Sakhar. Now this was narrated by Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. The scholars have also mentioned that this particular demon was one of those that did not submit to Nabiyana Sulaiman alayhi salam as commanded previously. The second position is that the name of this demon was Al-Sif. This was said by Mujahid. But he was not. This is not the other Al-Sif that is known as a believer, that is mentioned in other literature, who knew the greatest name of Allah. This is an Al-Sif from among the demons. And some of the narrators of commentary state that this Al-Sif had knowledge of the book, meaning had knowledge of science and other information, and that when Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam's signet ring had fallen from his hand, that he took a hold of it. But this narration is not established. Another narration was stated that Asif has said, I stand in your place until Allah shall have mercy upon you. And he stood in his place and narrated stories. This narration is also inauthentic. No one who is mentally sound would narrate anything such as this. The third position is that the name of this demon was Hubaqaiq. Now, with regard to the name Hubaqaiq, As-Sudai has said that it means, in another language, that we have been made to sit. So, this demon had this name. And when Allah says after this, ثُمَّ أَنَابَ, then he returned after that. Meaning that this demon returned from his sin, as said by Qatada, and still another statement is that this demon took control of the throne during the life of Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam, and he took the throne back from him, as is mentioned by Ad-Dahhak, so that the actual throne having been taken from Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam, his kingdom and dominion being taken, is actually the test that Allah gave him. Now, the reason why this test came to pass is based upon 5 incidents. One is that Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam had a woman as his wife named Jurada. There was a dispute that had happened between one of Jurada's people and another group of people. He judged between them with the truth. But he felt saddened that her people had not come down on the side of the ruling. And so he was brought to trial. He was tested on account of that. Allah the Exalted revealed to him I shall certainly test you. Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam he had no idea whether the test would come from the sky or from the earth. This was mentioned by Ibn Abbas from the narration of Saad ibn Jubayr. Now, there was another incident, a second incident, in which his wife by the name of Jurada she influenced a lot of the women around him and was the most influential. She said to him one day, there has been a dispute between my brother and another individual. I would like you to give judgment in that regard. He did not, and was put to trial on account of this, as said by As-Sudai. The third thing that this testing came from was that his wife Jurada, something should be said of her. He actually came to take a hold of this woman after a battle that he had been upon. She had been the daughter of a local king. She became Muslim. But when she came to live with him, she would cry in the night and in the day. He asked her about herself one day. And she said, I'm thinking of my father. I'm not with him. If only you could command some of the demons under your control, that they might draw a form of him that I might keep in my house that would remind me of him. He did this for her but unbeknownst to him, when Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam used to leave to go attend some business, she and her servants would prostrate to this image. This went on for 40 mornings. When Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam came to know of this, he destroyed that image. He punished the woman and her servants. He then humbled himself to Allah the Exalted, seeking forgiveness for what had even occurred in his home without his knowledge. It was during this time that the signet ring of Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam was stolen. And this is the statement of Wahab ibn Munabbih. The fourth incident that occurred is that Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam he took himself away from his people for 3 days. Allah the Exalted revealed to him, Sulaiman, do you hide yourself away from the people for 3 days? and you don't look into the affairs of my slaves, so that the oppressed is not protected from the oppressor, it is then at this point that the demon stole the signet ring of Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam. This was mentioned by Saad ibn Al-Musayyib. The fifth incident is that Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam desired to be physically intimate with one of his wives. But this did not happen because she was on her cycle. And he was tested on account of this. And this was mentioned by Al-Hasan al-Basri. So these are the events that came to bring about the testing. Now, with regard to the form that was on the throne, the body, the jasad, we just mentioned that the first opinion is that it was a demon. The names of that demon, and the 5 incidents that triggered this. But there's a second statement on this matter as well. And this second statement is that there was also a child born to him, Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam. At that point, the demons gathered together and they said to one another, if the boy lives, we shall not leave him free of tribulation. Our plan is to kill his son or take control over him. When Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam came to know this, he commanded that a low-lying cloud should come and carry the boy away from them. This boy was kept safe on account of Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam's fear of what the demons might do to the boy. So he, Allah, the Exalted, brought Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam to trial on account of his having fear of the demons. And the boy later died. The dead corpse was later put on his throne. This was said by a Sha'bi. However, this is not the dominant position or statement. The dominant position and statement that we made just a moment ago is what the scholars of commentary said in the first instance, namely, that the form on the throne was this demon. Now we're going to mention to you the story of the testing of Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam that is agreed upon by the vast majority. We'd mentioned the signet ring that was taken away from him before. Now the scholars disagree as to how the signet ring was taken away from Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam. There are two positions regarding how the signet ring came to leave the presence of Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam. The first position is that Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam was sitting at the shore near the residence at the water point one day. And it fell into the water. This was stated by Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. Now, the second position is that it was taken by the demon Now, how this came to pass, scholars have mentioned different things. It has been mentioned by some that on the day that he went to the bathhouse, he placed the signet ring under his pillow. In his private quarters. The demon came and took it and tossed it into the water. Saying that because he had the signet ring now, he must also be a prophet of Allah. This was stated by Saad ibn al-Musayyib. One scholar, he stated that Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam had said to the demon, "Why is it you cause the people to go into trial?" To which he said, "Show me your signet ring and I will tell you." But when he showed the ring, the demon took it and tossed it into the water. And because of this, the governance of Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam was unhinged. And the demon sat on his throne on account of this. This was stated by Mujahid. Sa'id ibn Jubayr states that when Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam entered the bathhouse and he placed the signet ring under the trust of his wives, particularly the most trustworthy of them all, the demon came to her in the form of Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam. And he took the signet ring from her. when the actual Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam returned and asked for the signet ring back, she said, "But I gave it to you already." Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam became concerned and the demon came, took over the throne, and dislodged his rule. Another narration was given by As-Sudai, in which when he entered the bathhouse, the demon took hold of it and tossed it in the water. And the governance and dominion of Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam was dislodged. And the demon came in the form of Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam and ruled. This was also said by Qatada. Now let us sum this up. As far as the narrative regarding the demon, the vast majority of scholars of commentary have mentioned that when the demon took the signet ring, that he threw it into the water, that he came in the form of Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam, sat on his throne, and took control for the period of time. As Sudai goes on to further mention that once the demon fled after taking and disposing of the signet ring, he fled. Now the question is, did he come to the wives of Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam? Because since he was ruling in his place and in his form, did he come to them physically or commit acts on them or attack them? This is based upon two statements. One is that he was not able to do so, as said by Al-Hasan al-Basri and Qatada. While the second is that he came to them to commit the act while they were on their cycle, and they rebuked him. And this was said by Saad ibn al-Musayyib. The first position, however, is the most authentic. Now, they said, when this happened, that how shall it be the case that this demon shall give false judgments and then judge by that which is not permitted? The children of Israel rebuked and denied this situation. And they said to one another, whether you're destroyed or whether your dominion is destroyed, go to the wives of Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam and ask them what to do in this matter. So they went, and the wives said, indeed, by Allah, we have rebuked this creature. And he, Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam, is in a state of testing, and this shall be the case until the trial is lifted. Now the kingdom being returned to Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam came because he was shown the place where his signet ring was located. And he took it. And he took hold of the demon after this and banished him, as said by Saad ibn Al-Musayyib. Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam, when he returned to his dominion, the winds, the birds, the demons, and everything else returned as they had been before under his control. And this particular demon fled, as mentioned by Mujahid. Now this had been after 40 days of trial and tribulation under the dominion of this demon. And so the demon left from his place, as said by Wahab ibn Munabbih, and the children of Israel had rejected him and rebuked this demon. Then after this, the Torah was brought out and they read it. And the demon dispersed from his place and all the others that were disobedient. In addition to this, the signet ring that had been in the water that Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam rediscovered and took back had originally been swallowed by a large fish, but was reclaimed. And this was after the 40 days of dominion over the kingdom by the demon, which the vast majority of commentators say it was 40 days. Whereas the others say that it was 14 days. As for the narrative of Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam, that the fact that when his signet ring was lost, his dominion was lost, Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam, on account of this, went into the earth looking for it. And he sought refreshment, as said by Mujahid, and received none, and was in worry, saying to every people he came across while looking, if you know me, then assist me. I am Sulaiman. But no one knew anything about him because he was anonymous. Until he came looking again for the signet ring in another place. He came upon a woman who gave him a fish. And it was a very large fish. And he found his signet ring in the belly of that fish once it was cut open. This was mentioned by Saad ibn Jubayr and others. And he later took control of his dominion. Now, then, his dominion, as we said, was 40 days of lost dominion, or 40 nights, as we mentioned from before. Some have said 50, as said by Saad ibn Jubayr, but the dominant is 40. Now, the scholars of commentary go on to say, the signet ring was in his hand, and Allah returned that to him along with his dominion, as well as the birds that were under his control, and all the other things, such as the jinn, the bird, the stones, the trees, until he returned to his former place. Now the demon in question is mentioned by As-Sudai. He had sent word to that demon, had it brought before him. And he placed that demon in a large container, like a box, but it was made of iron. And that container had a large lock placed upon it and sealed shut. And he sealed it with his signet ring. And that signet ring that it was sealed with was to remain upon that container. And he commanded that it should be thrown at the bottom of the body of water, where it shall remain until the hour is established. Wahab then said, once it was thrown in, he then had a large boulder cut and placed on top of it, and then covered over with iron again and brass and lead, to make sure that it would remain firmly placed. Close quote. Now this is an important point here. You say, well, what is the issue with the signet ring? Well, signet rings generally had to do with, signet rings represented things. So if someone had a signet ring with their name on it, that represented their name. Signet rings could represent someone's rule. So Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam, the sign of his rule and his governance was the fact that he had this signet ring. And when that was taken away, it's like the divine protection over his rule and his governance. It's like that was taken away. And this isn't unusual, because in the time of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, he had the signet ring of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then what happened? When that fell into the well of Aris, everyone understood. Why? Because they understood from the incident of Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam. They said that's the end of his reign. He's going to lose his reign. And the rest of the 6 years after that was his mulk, his dominion, unraveling. And everyone sort of places that at the beginning where things really started to change for the ummah, to the point that there would be trials. At that point where he lost his dominion. Now his dominion was lost, and they didn't find that ring again. And that was 6 years. Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam only lost his dominion for 40 days and reacquired that ring and reacquired his dominion. So dominion is very important. And the signs and symbols of things, often they'll be signs of people's rule. The great throne in Iran was known as the peacock throne, and its sign was the peacock, and it was a statue and an image that was placed. And when the Romans, the Byzantine Roman Empire, finally marched in and took over, the sign that the end of that rule had come was the destruction of that image of the peacock. Because that was the sign of the throne. That was the marker of the throne. Just as much as here, there are certain signs and symbols of the English throne. And if that sign is destroyed, it's almost as if it's taking away that symbol, that sign. What represents that mandate of that throne. So there are these symbols and signs. And because of that, there are certain laws in place that if you attack certain seals, certain signs, that you can be arrested or you can go to jail. For example, if someone should go to somewhere in the United Kingdom and curse the queen of the country, that person can be arrested and can serve a lengthy jail sentence. Why? Well, it's even if Queen Elizabeth says, well, I'm not offended at all by that. It doesn't matter. It's what that type of behavior represents. It's a disrespect towards the throne, which they would say goes back into antiquity. There are certain symbols that if you attack them, the sign of American dominion is the American flag. So if you destroy that, if you attack that, that is as if you're attacking not just the flag itself, but the dominion of the United States. So one of the first things they do is, if the flag should touch the ground, then that means it's been desecrated. So that the flag has to be destroyed. It can't be repurified. It has to always be standing upright and high. So flags, symbols, seals throughout the United Kingdom, in courts, whether they're in Scotland, Wales, or England, you'll go and you'll see the sign of the horse and the lion, or two lions. And usually that's the symbol of the Lion of Judah and the horse of revelation, because the throne here claims that its lineage goes back to a Hebrew past, and that they are the recipients of the Hebrew culture throne, and that they continue to rule in the absence of that. That they're recipients, they're part of, they're sort of successors to that history, and that's a symbol. So if you were to be in court one day, or to walk into that building and try to stand on a stool and remove that seal, people would obviously try to stop you. Even people who knew nothing else, but they just know that that is a symbol of what this country stands for. The Al Saud family, the two swords and the palm tree, right, which also stands for the Blue Lodge, the Arab Lodge, right? If you tried to physically remove that seal, you went down to Riyadh and tried to destroy that seal or remove it, you would be stopped. You'd be prevented from doing that, because it's the sign of the end of that empire. When Muhammad Reza Shah Pahlavi was removed from power in Iran, what did they do to remove the Pahlavi throne? Is they showed the television cameras facing towards his residence, and they took down the seal of the Pahlavi Empire. That's the sign that that is now the end of his dominion. It's over with. Right? So these are signs and symbols for you to take to understand. Now, just as a quick thing before we get to it, the next ayah that comes, there's a part in the ayah where Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam, after making dua, he says, "Lord, forgive me and bestow on me a dominion the like of which you shall not give anyone after me." Now, the scholars have often discussed what this means. The vast majority of them understand the dominion, what that means is wisdom. All scholars are agreed, as the Muslim scholars are agreed, that Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam was the wisest king that ever lived. Right? He was the wisest king that ever lived. Right? All Muslim scholars are agreed upon that, because he ruled as a king, particularly for that purpose and no purpose alone. So Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam was different to his father, Nabiyyuna Dawood alayhi salam. Nabiyyuna Dawood was a warrior. He was a warrior prophet that took dominion of the land. He was not able to finish the building of a Masjid al-Aqsa. He built the outer surrounding walls of it first. But Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam had far fewer issues of combat and was more of a Nabiyyun Malik, a prophet king. So he had much more of a time of ruling. So he would say aphorisms. There are books that have been written in history that mention the wise aphorisms of Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam. There are some in this surah that we'll take from this surah. There are some that we can see in Surah An-Naml, right, of some of the wise aphorisms of Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam. These aphorisms are known in Arabic as, in Arabic, the word for a wise saying is a hikmah. And a hikmah is a wisdom. And hikam is wisdoms. Right? So a hikmah, when someone has hikmah, it means they have wisdom, they are wise, and they know when to use that wisdom. That's what a hikmah is. That's what hikmah is. It's not that someone who doesn't use bad language in the polite company of women and men, oh, he has hikmah. That's not hikmah. Hikmah is having wisdom, knowing where the wisdom applies, and then applying it accordingly. That's hikmah in Arabic. That's what hikmah means. Right? Now, Nabiyyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam would make a number of hikam, which are wise statements, which you'll take a very big concept and then you'll shrink it down to a profound, wise saying. And the scholars after the Prophet ﷺ continue to make these hikam, these wise sayings. So you can find books on these wise sayings. And every culture has their wise sayings. Right? In Japan, these are called haiku. And haiku are where, and a lot of times they were written by samurai or other people, where you take a very large concept and you would try to sum it up in one sentence or maybe three. And that whole sentence or those three would symbolize paragraphs of information. But you had to contain several thoughts within one statement. Haiku. Every nation has their hikam, their wise sayings. And those wise sayings are applicable to everyone. That's another thing about a hikmah. A hikmah is applicable. So if someone's a Muslim, someone's not a Muslim, the wise saying is applicable. Right? The wise saying is applicable. A famous wise saying is the saying of Confucius, known as Confucius. Confucius had said to treat others in the best way possible shall at least maintain that they treat you to the same degree. This is known as the golden mean of Confucius, right? To treat others as you would like to be treated, right? It's the golden mean. Everyone can use that hikmah. Everyone can use it. It's applicable to everyone, right? It's applicable to everyone, right? A wise hikam, right, of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The best Islam that a man has is leaving alone affairs that don't pertain to him. That's a wise saying. That's not something that says, oh, well, Muslims mind their own business. No, that's a wise hikam for anyone to take that advice, right? And you can do the same thing with Zarathustra, the same thing with Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha. There are certain hikam that exist in the creation that are there, Muslim or not, that are universal, that are applicable to all circumstances and places. And that's why they're hikam, they're wise sayings. But there's been no king in history that has been wiser than Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about the Han dynasty of China or the kings of Japan no. The wisest king in history that ever lived is Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam, because it was an answer to this dua, give me a dominion the like of which no one after me shall be given. That's the wisest king of all history. Right? So now, we come to the statement of Imam Ibn Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, where he goes over this ayah. He says, quote, and then Allah brings us to the ayah, قَالَ رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَهَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي. He said, my Lord, forgive me and bestow on me a kingdom the like of which shall not be after in comparison. إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْوَهَّابِ. Indeed, you are the bestower. Ayah 35. Now this particular ayah, when the Exalted One has said this, the reason why this is being used, according to Nafi' Abu Amr, is that there shall be no one after him that shall have the dominion such as him. This was said by Muqatil and Abu Ubaidah. There is also a hadith collected by Imams Al-Bukhari and Muslim, narrated by Abu Hurairah, from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he said, an ifrit from the jinn came to me one day while I was praying in the masjid. It tried to take me away from my prayer. Allah gave me strength over it. I then took a hold of it and restrained it at one of the pillars of the masjid. So that you might look at it and come and see it, all of you. But then I remembered the supplication of my brother Sulaiman. Lord, forgive me and give me a dominion the like of which has not been given to anyone before. When I remembered this, I went back, I untethered the demon and released it. Now also when it's stated a dominion the like of which has not been given to anyone, it refers to his lifetime as well. Because the demon that sat on his throne was not given any dominion like his. This was mentioned by Al-Hasan al-Basri and Qatada ibn Da'imah. He also sought this dominion so that others to come after might know that he was forgiven and granted victory in the trial that he had. And so that his rank might be known, and that it should also be known that his supplication was answered. And this was mentioned by Ad-Dahhak. And when he made this supplication, then the winds and the shayateen, demons, were abased and submitted to him. As the Exalted One said, and the shayateen, we subjugated to him the winds to go by his command, and the shayateen. So, this therefore shows that they were obedient to him. They were muti'ah. They listened to what he told them to do. And they obeyed. And the shayateen were subjugated to him. And they built, because the ayah states, kulla banna, and they built whatever he commanded them to do. وَيَغُوصُونَ فِي الْبِحَارِ وَيَغُوصُونَ لَهُ فِي الْبِحَارِ, and they swam in the seas and brought out whatever trinkets he told them to bring out. And other subjugated demons did further to what he told them to do. Even if they were unbelievers, they obeyed him by Allah's command. Now, we've already discussed a great deal of this in Surah Ibrahim, the 15th Surah 49. And when Allah the Exalted said, and indeed this is what we gave, and we gave it without record or decree. So when he said, هَذَا عَطَاؤُنَا, this is what we gave, فَمْنُوا أَوْ أَمْسِكْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ, so be sufficient with that or restrain without reckoning. And then the Exalted One said that he shall have all of what he had asked for without reckoning. Meaning that there will be no one in the dunya of the kings to come after you who will be like you. As mentioned by Saad ibn Jubayr. And also, it also means that there shall be no reckoning upon him. بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ means there shall be no reckoning upon Nabiyuna Sulaiman alayhi salam on the day of resurrection. Now, we've already discussed part of this in Surah Saba, the 34th Surah, Ayah 37. Surah Al-Ra'd, the 13th Surah, Ayah 29. And Surah Al-Anbiya, the 21st Surah, Ayah 83. The Exalted One, he then tells us after this in discussing Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam to mention Ayyub, and that Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam had been brought to trial by a demon that had attacked him, but that he remained steadfast. And Allah the Exalted had said to him, وَاذْكُرْ عَبَدَنَا أَيُّوبَ إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ أَنِّي مَسَّنِّيَ الشَّيْطَانُ بِنُصْبٍ وَعَذَابٍ. That, remember our slave Ayyub when he called on his Lord that saying, indeed, the shaitan has touched me with trial and much torture. Now, the trial here that was referred to is harm which the shaitan brought to him, and difficulty, and all the other forms of wickedness. And the harm, the nusub here, means internal harm. Someone is disturbed in their mind. Whereas adhab, that type of harm means what happens to the body. Allah the Exalted then said, now step forward in the earth. Step forward after having gone into the body of water to wash off yourself and refresh yourself from the trial that you have suffered. And he did so. And when he did this, he was purified of all trials and all tribulation, and Allah healed him. And Allah gave him success in this regard. Now remember the statement of Allah when he said, وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ أَهْلَهُ وَمِثْلَهُمْ مَعَهُمْ رَحْمَةً مِنَّا وَذِكْرَى لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ وَخُذْ بِيَدِكَ ضِغْثًا فَاضْرِبْ بِهِ وَلَا تَحْنَثْ إِنَّا وَجَدْنَاهُ صَابِرًا نِعْمَ الْعَبْدُ إِنَّهُ أَوَّابٌ واذكر عبادنا إبراهيم وإسحاق ويعقوب أولي الأيدي والأبصار إنا أخلصناهم بخالصة ذكر الدار وإنهم عندنا لمن المصطفين الأخيار واذكر إسماعيل واليسع وذا الكفل وكل من الأخيار هذا ذكر وإن للمتقين لحسن مآب جنات عدن مفتحة لهم الأبواب متكئين فيها يدعون فيها بفاكهة كثيرة وشراب وعندهم قاصرات الطرف أتراب هذا ما توعدون ليوم الحساب إن هذا لرزقنا ما له من نفاد هذا وإن للطاغين لشر مآب جهنم يصلونها فبئس المهاد هذا فليذوقوه حميم وغساق وآخر من شكله أزواج هذا فوج مقتحم معكم لا مرحبا بهم إنهم صالوا النار قالوا بل أنتم لا مرحبا بكم أنتم قدمتموه لنا فبئس القرار قالوا ربنا من قدم لنا هذا فزده عذابا ضعفا في النار. So we bestowed upon him his family, and like that, and like them with them as a mercy from us, and a remembrance for those who have firm hearts. And take with your hand the goodness and move forward with it. And do not sully yourself. Indeed, we found him patient in this regard. What a great slave, what a good slave. Indeed, he was faithful. And remember our slaves, Ibrahim, Ishaq, Yaqub, people of strength and insight. And we purified them with a purification in the highest rank. Indeed, they in our sight were the chosen ones, the best. And mention Ismail, Al-Yasa, and Dhul-Kifl. Every one of them was of the best. This is a remembrance. And indeed, the best outcome in good way is for those who are pious. In gardens of Aden, which have doors that are swung open for them, they shall be reclining therein, calling therein for sustenance of many types, and drinks of many flavors and goodnesses. They shall have maidens which are chaste and pure, saying to them, this is what you were promised for the day of reckoning. Indeed, this is for our sustenance, the wealth of that which has been carried forward. Indeed, this is the truth. As for those who transgress the bounds, they have an evil homecoming, the great fire in which they shall be roasted therein, and what an evil place and home to be in. This is the end for you. So taste of it, blazing water, and the pus that shall be poured over. Indeed, they shall have their companions for them, their end for them, for their spouses shall follow them thereabout. This is the party which shall be overthrown, and those who are with you that followed you. There is no welcome for them. Indeed, they shall be burned in the fire. They shall say, but you as well, there is no welcome for you. You are responsible for this. What you have put forward has led us astray. And what an evil time that we shall be forever therein. They shall say, our Lord, whoever brought forward this to us and caused us to be in this condition, then give them a double portion of that in the great fire. Surah Saad, the 38th Surah, ayat 43 to 61. The Exalted One, in discussing this, has given us clear guidance when he said, so take with your hand this one, that you have sworn an oath. And so Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam went forward and carried out the oath of his Lord. Now, one of these oaths that he had to fulfill is that Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam went forward and he flogged his wife with 100 stripes. The reason for this oath, there were 3 incidents. One is that Iblis sat on a roadside where there were doors flung open. And he sat as if he was a doctor or a medicant to someone. The wife of Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam passed by and said, slave of Allah, indeed there is a man here that's undergoing trial and you appear to be a medicant. Do you have anything to treat him with? To which Iblis responded, yes, actually I do. And if it's so be the case, then I will heal him. But then he came forward and he recognized Shaitan for who he was. And he said, no, this is Shaitan. He has no cure for me. And if Allah should cure me, I shall flog you for this treachery. As is mentioned by Yusuf ibn Mihran from Ibn Abbas. The Shaitan also, there was an incident in which Iblis, he met her along the way. And they had the same conversation on another occasion before he came to Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam. And he said, yes, I actually, to tell you the truth, am the one who did to Ayyub what was done. I am the God of the earth. And whatever I take from the earth is in my hand, and I have the dominion. Shall I not show you this dominion? So he went with her not far. And they went to a location, and he bewitched her sight. And he showed her a deep valley, where her people were in that valley, and her children, and all of her property. And he said, I told you I have the dominion of all things. She came to Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam and informed him of this. And he said, that was indeed shaitan. May Allah have mercy upon you. How could you follow and let someone give you that word and you listen to it? By Allah, if He, Allah, should heal me, I shall certainly flog you 100 stripes for what you've done. This was mentioned by Wahab al-Munabbih. And there was also the case that when Iblis came to his wife, acting as a mendicant, he also said to her, if you should slaughter this animal for me, then I will actually be able to act as a mendicant and heal. When Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam was informed of this by his wife, it angered him, and he swore that he would flog her with 11 stripes. Now we have mentioned this statement again in Surah Al-Anbiya, the 24th Surah, ayat 83, from Al-Hasan al-Basri. Now, everything of what we mentioned is indeed the truth in this regard. Now, He, the Exalted One, said that when He carries out Allah's will, وَخُذْ بِيَدِكَ دِغْطًا, so take with your hand, the dightan, meaning something that is dry, but it is a long stick that is wet. It is long, that's in the hand. Let it dry, and this shall be what you shall use for the flogging. The scholars of commentary say, He, Allah the Exalted, did reward the spouse of Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam for her patience, because of the fact that she had to be flogged for what she did, and she accepted this. And so the 100 stripes that she received, she also was rewarded for being patient and repentful. So this is the reality of what occurred. Now, this then brings up a point, as we have discussed before. Because the scholars of commentary say that she was rewarded for her patience, and that he had a 100 stripes, and it was with a small stick that he struck her with. Now it's been said that this strike was 100 or just one time that was sufficient. Is this ruling general to the wife of Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam, or is it specific to the wife of Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam, or is it general? The answer to this question is that there are two rulings. One is that this ayah is general. And this is the position of Ibn Abbas, Ata ibn Abi Ribah, and Ibn Abi Layla. The second position is that it is specific to Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam. And this was said by Mujahid. Close quote. Now there's just a point here about this particular ayah and this incident. This incident, from a fiqh standpoint and a legal standpoint, goes with Surah An-Nisa, the 4th Surah, ayah 34. And it has to do with if a woman is rebellious to her husband and the rebellion has gone to a certain limit, the court can hand down a punishment, a penalty. And that penalty might involve physical correction that the court can hand down. Now, the question that exists is, based upon this, can the court give the husband authority to then carry out that ruling that the court has given? Or does the court have to carry it out itself? Now, some people would say, well, the authority can be delegated to the husband, in which the husband carries out that penalty, right? And this position is understood by people such as Sheikh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani, rahimahullah, in his book Al-Ghunya. He understands that, okay, this penalty, if it's carried out by the court, can be carried out by the husband. But on the other end of the spectrum, the people that say, no, this is specific to Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam, because obviously he's going to carry out the penalty on his wife because he's a prophet. And because prophets are the law bringers and the law givers, that's something specific to them. But when you're talking about a court that is governed by the scholars of the Marja people does what? It's in place of the prophets. So that means it has the same authority that the prophets have, bar legislation. So they have the most right to carry it out. The husband doesn't stand in the place of the prophet. Those scholars do. Because why? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad that the scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. He didn't say men are the inheritors of the prophets. He said scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. So those who say this is specific to Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam would say this is specific to him, and he would carry this out because he is a prophet. He can do that. But men, regarding as husbands, even if the court hands it down and says they can do it, they don't have a right to do that. Right? Now, Imam al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he then says, quote, now we look at another ruling that the scholars of fiqh have differed in, regarding the one who swore that if his servant committed an offense in his home, that he said that he would strike him 10 times. And he said that he would gather them all together in one strike, or whether they were 10 individual strikes. Is this valid for him to do if he said 10, but he gathered together one strike and did that only as a sign of those 10? Imam Malik and Layth ibn Saad, they both say that if they did this, then it would not be sufficient because he said 10 and it must be 10. This is the same position of our scholars as well. But Imams Abu Hanifa and Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i say, if he said 10, but he gave one strike, and he said that that one strike symbolizes those 10, then this is sufficient. And they argue this point because they use the story of Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam as their evidence. Now, when the Exalted One says, Inna wajadanahu sabira, we found him patient, meaning in the difficulty and trial and testing that he went through, Nabiyuna Ayyub alayhi salam was patient. And when the Exalted One says, mention our slaves. Mention our slaves. So here Allah has mentioned Ibrahim, and he made Ishaq and Yaqub to follow along after that. Because in reality, they are his progeny that come after. Ishaq being his son, Yaqub being his grandson. So mention the patient ones among them, such as Ibrahim. Now Ibrahim was patient when he was thrown into the fire by Nimrud. Ishaq was patient. Ishaq was patient. According to the people that hold the position that Ishaq was the sacrifice, they say that Nabiyuna Ishaq alayhi salam was patient when he was being prepared for slaughter. Nabiyuna Yaqub alayhi salam was patient when his vision went, as well as the fact that Nabiyuna Yusuf alayhi salam was taken from him. Now the question is, why isn't Nabiyuna Ismail alayhi salam mentioned here? The answer is because Nabiyuna Ismail alayhi salam was not tested along with them in the same capacity as they were tested. This is why. When Allah calls these prophets ul-Aidi wal-Abasar, men of power and insight, meaning power to obey Allah and insight in the deen and knowledge. Ibn Jarir al-Tabari said, Aidi is the plural, which is hands, the singular being yad. This is being used as a metaphor because the word yad in Arabic symbolizes power, and power and grasping means power and strength. That's why it's said to someone who's strong or someone with power, it's said, وَذُو يَدٍ, he possesses a hand, meaning he's powerful, he's mighty. As for basar, insight, it means insight in the heart. So that someone who has insight is able to get to the root, the core, the marrow, the very kernel of things. So the one who understands this understands the reality, because it means power. And he, Allah, said, and we chose them and purified them and set them apart. So inna akhlasnahum means that they were chosen, set apart, and made different and pure from all the other prophets that did not have this. And that they were given dhikr ad-dar, meaning the best of the hereafter and the paradise in specifics. And that the remembrance they were given. And we purified them by remembering them and mentioning them. As said by Mujahid. So Fudayl ibn Iyad used to say that these prophets always had fear of Allah in their heart, but Allah sought fit to mention these specific prophets as a set of those who were tested abundantly. So as a reminder to everyone else. So the people were called to the hereafter and to look at the worship of Allah and to carry it out by looking at these examples. They were purified and pure and set apart and different to all others. And they have the best of what's in the paradise. And وَإِنَّهُمْ, and they are, and our sight, the chosen ones. Now here Allah has chosen them. Mustafain is the plural of Mustafa. And Mustafa is coming from the root Safwa, where something is pure from any stain. Al-Akhyar, it means the best of something. And mention Ismail and Al-Yasa and Dhul-Kifl. Now he mentioned them because of their goodness and their patience, because he followed the path that other prophets did. Al-Yasa was a prophet. And his name, the name Al-Yasa, is not an Arabic name. It is a foreign name. We've already discussed this in Surah Al-An'am, the 6th Surah, Ayah 85, as well as Surah Al-Anbiya, the 21st Surah, Ayah 85. As for the story of Dhul-Kifl, we've discussed this in Surah Al-Baqarah, the 2nd Surah, 125, as well as the name of Nabiyuna Ismail alayhi salam. Now, Muqatil claims that this is a different Ismail. The other references to Ismail are of the Prophet Nabiyuna Ismail alayhi salam, but this is a different Ismail that's not the son of Ibrahim. But this is a divergent opinion. Then when Allah says, this is a remembrance, meaning a noble and glorified remembrance, in which all these prophets are mentioned therein, and they shall be remembered forever. And the best home shall be for those who are pious, meaning they shall return to that in the hereafter. This is where they are going. It's clear. Under gardens of Aden, in which the doors shall be flung open and open for them. So the doors are open, and they are there to be therein for all eternity. Whereas the Jahim is for those who reject faith. And that is their permanent home. And the Jahim shall have the doors flung open for those people that go in. And they shall go in and never emerge from it. وَعِنْدَهُمْ قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ, and they shall have chaste maidens under there in the paradise. Now we've already discussed this in Surah Al-Safat, the 37th Surah 48. That these women are pure and they are noble and one, and they are eternally youthful and good and righteous. This is what you have been promised for a good outcome. He, the Exalted One, then mentions about the transgressing and rebellious ones the transgressing and rebellious ones, he mentions that for those that transgress the bounds is an evil homecoming for them. Because these are the unbelievers. So they will not receive a good homecoming. Their end is Jahannam. And they shall taste of the punishment therein, the boiling water and the pus poured there over them. They shall receive the terrible penalty that is to come to them, this blazing water. They will come to know the truth of this matter. Now we've already mentioned some of this in Surah Al-Saba, the 78th Surah, ayat 25. And the word ghasaq is referring to pus, specifically what comes from wounds or the eyes, and other penalties that He, Allah, has mentioned. And their spouses shall enter into the great fire with them, those that have rejected faith. And the groups and parties from among them shall enter in. And this shall be their end. Both those that rejected faith and the parties of people that followed them in that regard. Now, هذا فوج, this is the party of people that went in with you. It said that this is the statement that the angels are making to those who are in the fire as they go in, nation after nation, because the word fawj symbolizes a large gathering of people. And then the expression that they will be saying, the angels to the people of the fire and the people of the fire to each other, La marhaban bihim. There's no welcome for you. There is no welcome for you. Now the meaning of this word, marhabu, is coming from the Aramaic that has come into Arabic, which means to give someone a wide expanse of time and welcome. But there is no wide expanse, there's no welcome for you. There is no wide expanse for you. There is no opening up for you. There is no ease for you. Then he says they shall be burned in the fire. They'll gather in there, and when they're gathered therein, they shall be roasted. And you are a people that there is no help for you. There shall be no welcome for you. This statement is both to the heads, the leadership, and the followers. And the followers will ask at one point, we followed those that came before us, and we are here. Now please punish those with a double portion in the fire because of how they led us astray. Now, we've already discussed the double punishments, or what's mentioned of the unbelievers, in Surah Al-A'raf, the 7th Surah, ayah 38. Now, the people of the fire all want, whether they're followers or leaders, according to Ibn Sa'ib, and Muqatil, they all want the other one to receive a double punishment because they're so enraged with each other. But the penalties that they receive will be the same, but according to their wickedness. And then they will come to know the truth of what they did. Then the Exalted One, he says, وَقَالُوا مَا لَنَا لَا نَرَى رِجَالًا كُنَّا نَعُدُّهُمْ مِنَ الْأَشْرَارِ أَتَّخَذْنَاهُمْ سِخْرِيًّا أَمْ زَاغَتْ عَنْهُمُ الْأَبْصَارُ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ لَحَقٌّ تَخَاصُمُ أَهْلِ النَّارِ قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا مُنذِرٌ وَمَا مِنْ إِلَٰهٍ إِلَّا اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا الْعَزِيزُ الْغَفَّارُ قُلْ هُوَ نَبَأٌ عَظِيمٌ أَنْتُمْ عَنْهُ مُعْرِضُونَ مَا كَانَ لِيَ مِنْ عِلْمٍ بِالْمَلَإِ الْأَعْلَى إِذْ يَخْتَصِمُونَ إِذْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ إِلَّا أَنَّمَا أَنَا نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ إذ قال ربك للملائكة إني خالق بشرا من طين فإذا سويته ونفخت فيه من روحي فقعوا له ساجدين فسجد الملائكة كلهم أجمعون إلا إبليس استكبر وكان من الكافرين قال يا إبليس ما منعك أن تسجد لما خلقت بيدي أستكبرت أم كنت من العالين قال أنا خير منه خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين قال فاخرج منها فإنك رجيم وإن عليك لعنتي إلى يوم الدين قال رب فأنظرني إلى يوم يبعثون قال فإنك من المنظرين إلى يوم الوقت المعلوم قال فبعزتك لأغوينهم أجمعين إلا عبادك منهم المخلصين قال فالحق والحق أقول لأملأن جهنم منك وممن تبعك منهم أجمعين قل ما أسألكم عليه من أجر وما أنا من المكلفين إن هو إلا ذكر للعالمين وَلَتَعْلَمُنَّ نَبَأَهُ بَعْدَ حِينٍ. And they shall say, what is wrong with us that we see men in which we were among their ranks and from among the most evil? We took them as a sport and play, and then their vision was taken away from them. Indeed, that is the truth that the people of the fire shall dispute about. Say, indeed, I am only a warner from among you, and there is no God but Allah, the unique, the dominant, Lord of the skies and the earth and what's between them, the Almighty, the Forgiver. Say, it is the grand news to come, and you are running away from this news. I don't have any knowledge of the high-ranking ones that are in disputation. I only follow that which is revealed to me, and I am a clear warner. And remember when your Lord said to the angels, I am going to create a human being from clay. Then, when I fashioned him and blew into him of my soul, spirit, they should all now fall down to him in prostration. The angels all prostrated, all of them together, except for Iblis. He was arrogant and one of the unbelievers. He said to him in reply, Iblis, what prevented you from prostrating to the one that I created with my own two hands? Is it then that you're arrogant, or are you exalting yourself? He said, no, I am better than him. You created me from fire, and you created him from clay. He said in response to Iblis, so then you are expelled from here. You are to be cursed, and upon you is my curse until the day of judgment. He said, my Lord, give me respite until the day where they shall be resurrected. He said, granted, you have been given respite until the well-known time. He then said in reply, so then I swear by your might, I will lead them all astray, except those from among them that are saved. He then said in response to Iblis, the truth has been established, and the truth I say, I shall fill the great fire with you and whoever follows you from among those that you lead astray. Now say to them, I ask for no wage or wealth from among you, for I am responsible for my actions. That which I come to you is only a remembrance to the creation, so that you might know of the news that's coming to pass after a little while. Surah Saad, ayat 62 to 88. Now, when the Lord has said it is the grand news, meaning the Qur'an, because it is announcement of the end to come, as said by Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, and the vast majority, although some have said that it refers to the resurrection after death, as said by Qatada. You are fleeing from it, meaning you don't reflect on the Qur'an. You know that it's true. You know that I'm telling the truth, and you know that I am telling the truth as a prophet. And that what I've come with of the news of the past, narratives, you know that I don't know this except by revelation from Allah, for only a prophet could know this. And this is proof on what has been said, that I don't have knowledge of that which those on high dispute of. This is referring to the angels. Regarding Nabiyuna Adam alayhi salam, when he said, indeed, I am going to put in the earth a Khalifa. Surah Al-Bakri, the second surah, ayat 30. So it means, I did not previously know any of this information except by revelation. And I didn't know about the companions on high except the revelation that was given to me. It's only revelation given to me, and I am a warner, meaning I am a prophet warning you. I warn you what shall come to you and what you are avoiding. When your Lord said, meaning that which they're disputing about, regarding the creation of Nabi Adam alayhi salam, and this dispute from among them, it was a debate among the angels that originally happened, because they had said to Allah, shall you put one who shall cause corruption therein and spread bloodshed? Surah Al-Baqarah, the second surah, ayat 30, as mentioned by Ibn Abbas and Muqatil in their commentaries. And some of them had thought, well, Allah would never create a creation except that we will be more noble than that creation and more knowledgeable, as said by Al-Hasan al-Basri. And this is understood by the vast majority of commentators. But it's also narrated from the Prophet ﷺ, who said, I saw my Lord, and do you know my Lord said to me, what were the companions on high disputing about? I said, Lord, you know best. He said, the companions on high were disputing about two things: expiations and elevations. The companions on high were disputing about two things: expiations and elevations. As for the expiations, these are things that expiate sins. Such as making wudu on a cold day and being patient with that. Taking long walks in order to pray in congregation with others. waiting for the next compulsory prayer after one has prayed what is due currently. After one has prayed what is due currently. As for the elevations, these are things such as greeting the people with salam, feeding the hungry, and praying in the night while others are sleeping. This is collected by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad. When the Exalted One says, is it the case then that you are arrogant? Meaning you've exalted yourself because you've refused to prostrate to Adam? Or have you exalted yourself above the people because you think that you are greater than them? Indeed, you are cursed. Now, rajim means that something is cursed because it's blameworthy and wrath has been laid upon it. And you are cursed until ila yawm al-waqt al-ma'lum, until the well-known time. This well-known time is referring to the first time the horn is blown into, which brings the death of the creations. When Iblis responds by saying, by your might, means that he is swearing an oath. This oath has been mentioned in Surah Al-Araf, the 7th Surah, ayat 12, and Surah Al-Hijr, the 15th Surah, ayat 34. And then the Exalted One, he says, the truth is indeed the truth that I say. Meaning that this statement that was made, this discussion is true. It has come to pass. It shall be carried out. Hear it and listen to it. Because it means whatever's being said at that moment and whatever's going to be said after shall come to pass and has already been agreed in perpetuity. So when he said, indeed I shall fill the great fire with you, meaning you, your progeny, meaning shaitan, and whoever follows you. And then after this, Allah says to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, say, I do not ask you for any reward or wage, meaning for proclaiming the revelation. Because I am not responsible for you, but I'm responsible for the truth. Meaning, I'm not responsible with making you accept it. I've been commanded to come to you with it. I'm not giving you the Qur'an from my own self. It's being revealed to me. It, meaning the Qur'an, is remembrance, admonition for the creation, so that you might know. وَلَتَعْلَمُنَّ is referring to the whole gathering of unbelievers. You unbelievers. This is so that you unbelievers might know of the truth of the Qur'an that shall shortly come to pass. The shortly come to pass is referring to, firstly, death, when you shall know that it's true. And number two, the revelation and the day of resurrection. This was mentioned by Ibn Abbas, as well as Qatada and Ikrimah. And this was partially fulfilled at the Battle of Badr, because those unbelievers directly addressed were for the most part killed at the Battle of Badr. As said by As-Sudai, Muqatil, Ibn As-Sa'ib. And whoever was alive after that point knew the truth of what the Prophet ﷺ had said. And whoever died after that time knew it. Now, one of the scholars of commentary held the position that this ayah was abrogated by Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th Surah, ayah 5, but this is not established. There is no proof for this. Close quote. So I say at this point, أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم أستغفر الله إن الله غفور رحيم يرحم الراحمين. We've completed Surah Saad, and now, inshallah, we enter our question and answer. Is there anyone with a question? No? Yes?
The dispute between expiations and elevations, was it a matter of whether one thing is an expiation or whether it was an elevation?
Okay, the question is regarding the dispute between the companions on I, regarding the expiations and elevations. Whether one was better than another, one was an expiation for another. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. The dispute between the reason why the angels, because these are not just any normal angels, because they're different classes of angels. Al-Mala' wal-A'la are the actual angels that came to the Prophet ﷺ at the time that he died. These are referred to as Al-Mala' wal-A'la. Now these angels on high were disputing about which is better. The expiation, the expiations, or the elevations. Which of these acts? So there were 3 acts mentioned in each. Which one's better? These or these? So you see, what the angels are disputing about is not like what people dispute about. The angels are disputing about which action is more virtuous. Is it these? Is it these? Right? Because obviously the angels that are disputing about that are going to not only try to find out what the best is, but then they're going to exhort themselves and then also try to exhort humankind, or mankind, actually, more correctly, mankind, to carry out these obligations if possible.
And then do some of these overlap? Now, feeding the hungry is in elevations. Could that also be an expiation as well, if it's like a poor person?
Sure, I mean, it's true enough that feeding a poor person could be an expiation for sin, but when you look at most of the ahadith on the matter, it tends to be more of an elevation, like a righteous deed you can get, like a targhib, whereas the other things are expiate, like making wudu on a cold day expiates for sins, doing this. They tend to be mentioned in ahadith that if you do this, like taking a long walk to go to pray in Jama'ah, that for every step you take, it removes so many sins. So that's more of an expiation. It's true it has elevation, but the primary thing that was mentioned in the hadith is that. So they tend to be filed under these big categories. And you'll find when scholars talk about righteous actions, based upon that statement, they'll sometimes break everything down into like these 2 wide categories of expiations and elevations. And although they could broadly be switched around, or some could belong here, some would belong there, but because of the primary thing that's mentioned about them in the hadith collections, they tend to go in this particular place. Right? Question? Yes?
I asked the question, I asked for respite until the day of judgment. I just want to know the chronology of the conversation, because if Adam alayhi salam was still in paradise, heaven, why would there be a day of judgment? Why would they need to be judged?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the question is regarding what need would there be for a day of resurrection and the qualitative judgment. Well, alhamdulillah, the reason why there's a day of judgment is because this was already set up in perpetuity. If we remember from the opening of Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah says, I'm going to put a Khalifa in the earth. Now this is when Nabiyyuna Adam alayhi salam, he was created first. He's in the paradise with his wife in the paradise. But Allah said, I'm going to put a Khalifa in the earth. That means some of us are already going to come down here. There's already going to be something that comes down here. And in pre-eternity past, it was already known that certain things are going to happen. Certain things are going to come to pass. Just like, for example, we mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah that Allah already knew that Shaitan was an unbeliever before the rest of the angels knew, before the incident of prostration even happened. Because in the battle between the angels and the jinn, where the jinn were pushed off of the earth and they lost dominion of the earth, Iblis, because he had been part of that, where his previous name had been Azazil, he became extremely arrogant. But it was something that only Allah would know, because it was something hidden within him. Right? So the chronology of events is what we have in these ayat, where Allah has told the angels to bow down to Nabiyyuna Adam alayhi salam. Then Iblis, he denies to do this. He's told, you've been given respite for a period of time until the day that it will be raised. And then when Iblis, he says to him that I will take as many of them as I can, except for those who are mukhlasin. Now, I could have said mukhlis. Mukhlis and mukhlas are two different things. Mukhlis is someone who's sincere in their deeds. Mukhlas is someone who's been made sincere by Allah. That means there's a category of people who are saved before the beginning of everything. Now, this goes in with a hadith that is in the collection of Imam Suyuti, which I brought today, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Musa was written as a believer with Allah while he was in the belly of his mother. And he said the Pharaoh was written as an unbeliever in the sight of Allah in the belly of his mother, which means that there is a predetermined plan.
Do we all know our predetermined destiny?
Yes. The individual and Allah. No. So, for example, if you say, well, I keep telling this person about Islam, but they won't believe, they won't listen. Listen, only Allah and that person, man or woman, knows whether they're going to believe or not. Because they know whether they want to believe or will. They know what their end result is. They're going to know. Only Allah. Now, you won't know. You may talk to someone for years and years and years and preach the faith to them and try to guide them. And they don't listen to you. And 5 years later, you see them and they're Muslim. It's like, how did this happen? Because Allah guided them through other means besides you. It might not be you that's the means to guide them. Right? So only Allah and that individual know. Right? The rest of us, we don't know. Right? Yes. No? No question? Stretching. Right. Any other questions? No? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll close here. And when we next reconvene, we're starting Surah Al-Zumar. Inshallah, which is the 39th surah. So I say, Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk innahu ghafurur rahim yarhamir rahimin wa la ilaha illa Allah wassalamu alaikum.